Who did this to you? Have you ever had a stranger ask you the one question you've been too afraid to answer yourself? That's where Lily Parker's story begins. Not with a meet-cute or a chance encounter, but with a collapse. With bruises she'd learned to hide. With the moment everything she'd been holding together finally shattered on a rain-soaked street in Boston. The rain came down in sheets that November evening, turning Hanover Street into a blur of amber light and dark shadows. Lily's fingers had gone numb around the stack of graded notebooks pressed against her chest. The jacket she wore, 3 years old, bought back when she still had access to her own paycheck, did nothing against the cold seeping into her bones. Her vision blurred, not from rain, but from exhaustion. She hadn't eaten since a granola bar at lunch. Hadn't slept more than 4 hours in 3 days. Hadn't breathed easy since she couldn't remember when. Just make it to the bus stop. But Hamadi had reached its limit. Moretti's restaurant glowed like a beacon ahead. Yellow light, piano music drifting through the door, the scent of garlic bread making her stomach clench with hunger she'd learned to ignore. People inside were laughing, eating, living lives where they didn't count every penny or cover every mark. Her hand reached for the brick wall. Rough texture, cold stone, her knees gave out. The restaurant door opened just as she started to fall. A man in a perfectly tailored black suit stepped out mid-conversation with someone behind him. Tall, dark hair, eyes that caught the streetlight and reflected something sharp and calculating. He turned toward her just as gravity won. She barely registered the moment. The notebooks scattering, her worn ballet flats losing purchase on wet cobblestones. The split second before impact. Then strong arms wrapped around her, stopping the fall, the scent of leather and rain surrounding her. "Easy, I have you." His voice was deep, steady, American, but colored with something else. The kind of accent that came from growing up between two worlds. Lily tried to speak, to apologize, to explain, but her jacket sleeve had slipped up in the fall, exposing her wrist to the streetlight. The bruise was dark purple, unmistakable in its shape, 4 fingers and a thumb, wrapped around delicate bone. She watched the man's face change. Polite concern vanished, replaced by something cold and dangerous. His jaw tightened. His eyes went from warm brown to winter ice in a heartbeat. "Who did this?" He wasn't asking. He was demanding, but his voice stayed quiet, controlled. Somehow that made it more intense. Lily's breath caught. She tried to pull her arm back. "I fell. I'm clumsy. I just need to—" "You're about to faint on a public street with handprint bruises on your wrist." His gaze never left hers. "That's not clumsy. That's assault." He glanced over his shoulder. "Nico, bring the car around back. Right now." "Wait, I can't. I have a tutoring appointment. The family is expecting me. Call them and cancel." The man's expression softened slightly, but his voice remained firm. "The only place you're going tonight is somewhere safe. My name is Vincent Moretti." He shifted his grip, supporting her weight as her legs threatened to buckle again. "And I'm not letting you go back to whoever gave you those bruises. Not tonight, not ever." The edges of Lily's vision went dark. She heard Vincent calling for someone named Rosa, heard car doors opening, felt herself being lifted with surprising gentleness. Her last conscious thought wasn't fear, it was relief. For the first time in 2 years, someone had asked the right question. And maybe just maybe, someone was finally going to help her answer it. Lily woke to the scent of lavender and the softness of sheets that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Her eyes opened slowly, unfamiliar ceiling. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. Navy curtains thick as velvet. Silence, real silence, not the kind punctuated by slamming doors and raised voices. This wasn't the cramped apartment she shared with Eric. Panic spiked through her chest. She sat up too quickly, her head spinning. Where was she? How did she get here? What happened after? The door opened. Vincent Moretti stood there, minus his suit jacket, his white shirt rolled to his elbows. A tattoo curved along his forearm, dark script she couldn't quite read. In daylight, he looked less like the intimidating figure from the street, and more like someone carrying weight he'd grown used to. "You're awake. Good." He stayed by the door, not entering without invitation. "A doctor examined you last night, with your verbal consent, though you might not remember. You were conscious enough to agree. Low blood sugar, dehydration, severe exhaustion. He left instructions. I need to go home. Eric will be—" The words died as soon as she said them. Eric would be furious. Eric would demand explanations she didn't have. Eric would— "The person who left those bruises on your wrist?" Vincent's voice went quiet. "No, you don't need to go back there." A gray-haired doctor appeared behind Vincent, giving her a grandfatherly smile. He ran through her vitals, explained the IV fluids they'd given, outlined a recovery plan involving actual meals and sleep. Vincent listened to every word with the focus of someone used to remembering details that mattered. When the doctor left, Vincent pulled a chair near the bed, but remained standing. "I'm not holding you hostage, but I'm asking you to stay, at least until you're steady on your feet." "Why?" Lily's voice cracked. "You don't even know me." Vincent was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his words were careful, like he was handling broken glass. "When I was 13, my mother died because of someone like the man who hurt you. She hid it well, makeup, long sleeves, explanations about being clumsy. I was just a kid. I believed her." His jaw tightened. By the time I understood what the bruises meant, it was too late to save her. The confession hung in the air between them. Lily found herself asking, what was her name? Vincent's expression softened, just slightly. Maria Moretti. She loved gardening, even though we lived in a Brooklyn apartment with no yard. She kept plants on the fire escape, tomatoes, basil, flowers whose names I never learned. After she died, I let them all die too. I was angry at her for leaving, for not telling me the truth, for thinking she was protecting me by staying silent. He met Lily's eyes. I was 13, and I didn't understand that shame is one of the heaviest chains someone can wear. Now I understand. Now I see those chains everywhere, and when I can, I break them. Lily felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I'm sorry about your mother, about all of it. Don't apologize for things that aren't your fault. Vincent's voice was gentle but firm. That's the first lesson. You didn't cause what happened to you. You didn't deserve it. And you're not responsible for fixing him or saving him or making him better. Your only responsibility is to save yourself. The words landed in Lily's chest like stones dropping into still water, sending ripples outward. I've spent 20 years making sure I recognize those signs, Vincent continued. And I've spent 20 years making sure that when I see them, I don't look away. He met her eyes. So that's why. Because someone should have helped her, and because I can help you, if you'll let me. Before Lily could respond, a woman in her 60s bustled in, carrying a tray laden with food. Tomato soup, fresh bread, fruit arranged with care. The woman had kind eyes and the comfortable authority of someone who'd been bossing people around for decades. "You need to eat, sweetheart," the woman said warmly. "I'm Rosa. I manage Vincent's household, which mostly means making sure he remembers to sleep and doesn't live on espresso alone." She set the tray on the bedside table. "Now you eat every bite, or you'll answer to me, and I'm much scarier than he is." Vincent's mouth twitched in what might have been a smile. Lily's phone buzzed, once, twice, 17 times in rapid succession. She reached for it automatically, that old trained response. The screen lit up with Eric's name and a flood of messages. "Where are you? Answer me right now. Don't make me come looking for you. You're embarrassing me in front of everyone. I swear, if you don't answer in 5 minutes." Vincent glanced at the screen. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air around him, like watching storm clouds gather. "I have a lawyer. Her name is Hannah Brooks. If you want, she can handle all communication with him from here on out. Legal channels only. He won't be able to call, text, or show up anywhere near you without consequences." The word lawyer should have scared Lily. Instead, it felt like someone had just offered her a life raft in the middle of drowning. She looked at the soup, still steaming, at Rosa, who was adjusting curtains and humming softly, at Vincent, who'd moved back to the doorway, giving her space and time, and something she hadn't had in 2 years, choice. "Can I?" Her throat was tight. "Can I stay? Just for a few days?" Vincent's shoulders relaxed slightly. "You can stay as long as you need. No conditions, no expectations, just safety." Lily picked up the spoon. Her hand shook. But for the first time in longer than she could remember, she wasn't shaking from fear. She was shaking from relief. If this story is touching something real inside you, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Your support means everything. 3 days later, Vincent drove Lily 40 minutes outside Boston to a place that looked nothing like what she'd expected from a man in his line of work. The house sat tucked against a private lake, surrounded by pine trees swaying in the wind. Warm wood and stone construction, wide windows catching afternoon light. A wraparound porch that invited long conversations and quiet mornings. It looked less like a hideout and more like the kind of place where people went to heal. "This is where I come when things get complicated," Vincent said, cutting the engine. "No one knows about this property except people I trust completely." And now me, Lily thought. The weight of that trust settled somewhere in her chest. The first morning, she woke to birdsong instead of traffic. Rosa was already making breakfast, teaching her the art of proper espresso, the kind that required patience and precision. "Like anything worth doing," Rosa said, "rush it and it's bitter. Wait too long and it's weak. Get it just right, though, worth the effort." Days developed their own rhythm. Morning walks around the lake, leaves crunching underfoot. Afternoons reading on the porch while Vincent worked behind closed doors, his voice occasionally rising in English, mixed with something else before Nico intervened. Dinners where Vincent emerged looking tired but more human. Sleeves rolled up, asking about her day like it mattered. The nights, though, the nights were harder. The nightmare struck on the second evening. Lily dreamed she was back in the apartment, Eric's hand on her throat, his voice saying she was worthless, that no one would ever believe her, that she deserved this. She woke gasping, sheets soaked with sweat, heart hammering against her ribs. Vincent appeared in the doorway within seconds, didn't turn on lights, didn't cross into the room, just stood there in the doorway, a solid presence against the dark. "You're safe, Lily. You're here. He can't reach you." Her voice shook. "But he'll try. He always finds a way." Vincent leaned against the doorframe, his expression calm but absolute. "I've had people review his situation thoroughly. Right now, Eric Collins is dealing with creditors, and people far less patient than I am. But if he's foolish enough to come near this house, he'll discover exactly what happens when someone threatens my household. My household, not possessive, protective. There was a difference." "Why are you doing this?" Lily pulled the blanket tighter. "Helping a complete stranger? Because someone should have helped my mother when she needed it." His voice went quiet. "And because the moment I saw what he'd done to you, I couldn't walk away and still live with myself." The nightmare didn't return that night, but Lily lay awake for hours, thinking about a boy who'd learned too late what silence could cost. Thinking about a man who'd built walls so high that letting anyone inside must feel like dismantling everything he'd built for protection. Outside her window, an owl called into the darkness. For once, a little skims, Lily didn't flinch at the sound. 2 weeks later, Lily decided it was time to return to her classroom. Vincent didn't try to stop her, but he didn't pretend it was risk-free either. "Nico drives you. He stays in the parking lot. No arguments." "Eric doesn't even know where I am. Men like Eric don't give up because you disappeared, Lily. They escalate." Vincent's hand closed gently around her wrist, over the place where the bruise had faded to nothing. "So humor me. Let Nico be nearby." She agreed because the alternative, living in fear forever, was worse than any awkwardness. The first few days back felt blessedly normal. Her second graders tackled her with hugs. Fellow teachers welcomed her with careful questions she deflected with smiles. Nico sat in a black sedan outside, reading the newspaper, looking like someone's overprotective brother. On Wednesday afternoon, one of her students, a quiet girl named Emma, stayed after class. She was 7, with dark braids and eyes too old for her age. "Miss Parker?" Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. "My mom has marks on her arms, like you used to have." Lily's heart stopped. She knelt down to Emma's level, keeping her voice gentle. "What kind of marks, sweetheart?" "Purple ones. She says she fell down the stairs, but we don't have stairs. We live in an apartment." Emma's bottom lip trembled. "I get scared when her friend comes over. He yells a lot." Lily felt the world tilt. This was why she'd come back. This was why she was studying psychology. This was the cycle. Continuing unless someone broke it. "Emma, listen to me. Those marks aren't your mom's fault, and they're not your fault either. Do you understand?" Lily held the girl's small hands. "I'm going to talk to some people who can help. People whose job it is to make sure moms and kids are safe. Is that okay?" Emma nodded, tears spilling over. Lily held her while she cried and thought about all the Emmas in the world who needed someone to see, someone to speak up, someone to break the silence. That evening, she told Vincent about it. He listened without interrupting, then made a phone call. By morning, social services had visited Emma's apartment. By afternoon, Emma's mother had a safe place to stay and a lawyer who worked pro bono. "You did that," Vincent said simply. "You saw, you spoke, you saved them." Lily realized something profound in that moment. Being saved didn't make her weak. It made her someone who could save others. Then Thursday afternoon arrived. Lily was erasing the whiteboard, humming under her breath, when the air in the room changed. She turned. Eric stood in the doorway, wearing his most charming smile, the one he used on bosses and waitresses, the one that said, "I'm reasonable, I'm safe, trust me." "You've gotten good at vanishing." His voice was light, conversational. "Ignoring calls, not coming home, making me look like a fool to everyone who asks about you." The marker dropped from Lily's hand. "Eric, you need to leave." "I just want to talk. 5 minutes. We can sit in my car. There are children here, so let's not make a scene." "Don't make a scene. The old manipulation. You're the problem. You're being difficult." But something had shifted in Lily during those 2 weeks at the lake. She straightened. "I'm not going anywhere with you." "Lily, you're being ridiculous." The classroom door opened. Nico filled the frame, all 6'3", of controlled strength. "Miss Parker, your car is here. You ready to go?" Eric's expression flickered, confusion, then anger. "I'm her boyfriend. We're having a private conversation." "Ex-boyfriend," Lily corrected, her voice steadier than she expected. "Ex?" A woman in a navy suit appeared beside Nico, briefcase in hand, expression all business. "Mr. Eric Collins, I am Hannah Brooks, attorney. This is a temporary restraining order with a hearing scheduled for Monday at 9 a.m. You're prohibited from approaching, contacting, or communicating with Miss Parker within 200 feet, including this school." Eric stared at the papers like they were written in code. "This is insane. Lily, what lies have you been—" "The truth." Her voice didn't shake this time. "I told them the truth about what you did." Eric moved forward. Nico moved faster, his hand stopping Eric cold without aggression. Just an immovable wall. Hannah held up her phone. "We're recording, and the school's cameras have been running since you entered. If you touch her, the police will be very interested in having a conversation." Eric stood frozen, fury and disbelief warring across his face. Then he stepped back, jabbing a finger toward Lily. "This isn't over. You'll regret trying to humiliate me like this." "That's a threat witnessed by 3 people," Hannah noted calmly. "I'd choose your next words carefully." Eric left, but the look he shot Lily was pure venom. That evening at the lake house, Lily sat at the kitchen table cradling hot cocoa, recounting every detail to Vincent. When she finished, something almost like pride flickered across his face. "Good. Now he knows what it feels like to have someone in your corner for once." Lily met his eyes. "Thank you for sending Hannah, for all of it." "Don't thank me yet." Vincent's expression turned serious. "The restraining order is just the beginning. Men like Eric don't stop because of a piece of paper. They stop when they realize they've completely lost control, and that realization makes them dangerous." "Then what do we do?" Vincent's smile was slow, certain, and absolutely cold. "We make sure he loses everything else, too." Monday morning arrived cold and crystalline, the kind of Boston autumn day where everything looked sharp-edged and real. Lily wore a simple gray blazer Rosa had pressed for her, hair pulled back, hands steady only because she'd been gripping them together since dawn. Hannah walked beside her into the courthouse, Nico one step behind, a quiet wall of support. Lily hadn't expected Vincent to come. He'd mentioned court wasn't his world, that he had business to handle, that he was sitting in the back row, black suit, white shirt, no tie. His eyes found hers immediately, and the knot in her chest loosened. He came. He didn't have to, but he's here. Eric entered 5 minutes later with his lawyer, a man in an expensive suit, who looked like he charged by the word. Eric's gaze swept the courtroom, landed on Vincent, then snapped to Lily with an expression she'd never seen before. Not just anger, fear. The hearing began with clinical precision. Hannah presented her case like a surgeon, hospital records from a year ago showing accidental injuries with finger-shaped bruising. Text messages where Eric threatened to teach her a lesson if dinner wasn't ready on time. Testimony from neighbors who'd called police twice for disturbances. Shouting, crashing, a woman's voice begging someone to stop. Eric's lawyer argued that Lily was overly dramatic, that the messages were misunderstood, that couples argue, and it didn't constitute abuse. The judge, a woman with silver hair and eyes that saw through pretense, listened without expression. Then she looked directly at Lily. "Miss Parker, do you have anything you'd like to say?" Lily stood. Her legs felt unstable. Her hands trembled against the wooden rail. She'd practiced with Hannah, memorized the right words, kept everything clinical and detached. But now, standing in front of strangers with Eric's glare burning into her back, the practiced speech dissolved. She spoke from raw truth instead. "For 2 years, I told myself that if I just tried harder, if I was quieter, more patient, more understanding, he would stop. I made excuses. I covered bruises with bracelets and long sleeves. I canceled plans with friends because I couldn't risk anyone seeing me flinch when he raised his voice." Her voice cracked. She steadied it. "I convinced myself that love was supposed to hurt sometimes, that I somehow deserved it." The courtroom went silent. "But the last time he grabbed my wrist because dinner wasn't ready, exactly when he walked through the door, all I could think was, next time it might be my throat. Next time I might not wake up. And I realized this isn't love. It never was. It's control dressed up as caring. And if I don't stop it now, there won't be another chance." The silence stretched like glass about to shatter. The judge folded her hands. "The temporary restraining order is extended to 1 year, renewable upon review. Mr. Collins, you are prohibited from contacting Miss Parker through any means, directly or through third parties. Violation results in immediate arrest. Do you understand?" Eric's jaw clenched hard enough that Lily could see muscle jumping. "Yes, Your Honor." "This hearing is adjourned." Lily sank into her seat, trembling. Hannah squeezed her shoulder. Nico offered a rare, genuine smile, and Vincent watched her with something that looked like hard-earned respect. They were halfway to the exit when Eric intercepted them in the corridor, his lawyer conveniently absent. "You actually think he's going to protect you forever?" Eric's voice was low, venomous. "You think you're special? You're nothing, Lily. The second he gets bored, you'll come crawling back, and I won't be waiting." Vincent stepped forward, not aggressively, not quickly, just forward, placing himself between Eric and Lily with absolute certainty. "You're wrong." His voice was quiet, but carried the weight of finality. "Even without me, You can't touch her anymore. You had every chance to be a decent human being. You chose violence instead. Now you live with the consequences." Nico raised his phone, camera on. "That's a violation of the no contact order issued 9 minutes ago, Mr. Collins. This is being recorded." Hannah added calmly, "I strongly advise you to leave immediately, Mr. Collins, unless you'd prefer to explain to a judge why you couldn't follow a court order for 10 minutes. Eric's face drained of color. He looked at Lily one final time, a look filled with hatred and the first dawning understanding that he'd truly lost, then walked away. Lily watched him go. For the first time in 2 years, she watched him walk away from her instead of the other way around. She turned to Vincent. "You didn't have to be here." "I wasn't here because I had to be." Vincent's voice softened slightly. "I was here because I wanted him to see that when he looks at you now, he sees me too, and everything he'll never control again." Outside the courthouse, autumn sun blazed bright enough to hurt. Lily closed her eyes, tilted her face toward the light, and felt something she'd forgotten existed: hope. In the car ride back to the lake house, Lily was quiet. Vincent didn't push her to talk, just kept one hand on the wheel and the other available if she wanted to hold it. She did, threading her fingers through his, anchoring herself to this new reality where she had choices, where she had power, where her voice mattered. "I keep waiting for it to feel different," she said finally, "like there should be this huge moment of relief or celebration, but instead I just feel tired. Is that normal?" Vincent glanced at her, his expression understanding. "You just fought a war, Lily. Wars don't end with fanfare. They end with exhaustion and the slow work of rebuilding. The relief will come. Give it time." Back at the lake house, Lily took a long shower, letting hot water wash away the courtroom tension. The feel of Eric's eyes on her back, the weight of speaking truth in a public space. When she emerged, wrapped in a soft robe, she found Vincent on the porch with 2 glasses of wine and a blanket. "Thought you might want some air," he said. They sat together watching the sun set over the lake, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. Lily felt something loosening in her chest, some tight knot she'd been carrying for so long, she'd forgotten it was there. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for showing up today, for being there even though it wasn't easy for you." Vincent turned to look at her, his eyes reflecting the sunset. "You faced your fear head-on in that courtroom. The least I could do was face mine." "What fear? That the system wouldn't protect you, that speaking up wouldn't be enough, that I'd have to watch you be hurt again and be powerless to stop it." He paused. "But you didn't need me to protect you today, Lily. You protected yourself. I was just there, supporting the way it should be." Lily felt tears prickling again, but this time they were different. Not tears of pain or fear, but of recognition, of being seen, fully seen, by someone who understood that strength wasn't about never needing help. It was about knowing when to ask for it and accepting it when it came. Lily couldn't sleep that night, not from nightmares, but from the unfamiliar sensation of peace. She kept replaying the courtroom, her own voice, steady and true, saying things she'd never believed she had the right to say. She kept seeing Vincent in that back row, present without hovering, supportive without controlling. "I spoke my truth, and I'm still here." Around midnight, she gave up on sleep and padded downstairs barefoot, wearing borrowed pajamas. The lake house was dark, except for soft light from the living room. Vincent sat in an armchair by the window, still in his dress shirt and slacks from court, a glass of wine untouched beside him, staring out at moonlight on water. He looked exhausted, not just physically tired, but the deep weariness that came from carrying weight for too long. "Couldn't sleep either?" Lily asked softly. He glanced up, unsurprised. "Old habit. Sleep doesn't come easily in my line of work." "Occupational hazard of running an organization?" "Something like that." She settled onto the couch near his chair, tucking her legs beneath her. The silence felt like a shared language. They were both learning to speak fluently. "You didn't have to come to court," she said after a moment. "I know your world and courtrooms don't exactly mix well." Vincent's mouth quirked. "No, they don't. But sometimes you have to step into daylight, even when you're used to shadows, especially for people who matter." Her heart did something complicated. "Vincent, I think it's time you told me exactly who you are. No more restaurant owner stories." He was quiet, swirling wine he wasn't drinking. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of honesty. "I run an organization called Moretti. The media calls it Mafia because it's simpler than explaining the reality. I coordinate territories, mediate disputes that the legal system won't touch, arrange things that keep certain parts of this city from tearing themselves apart. I make deals, I settle conflicts, I ensure that people under my protection stay protected." He looked at her directly. "I'm not a good man, Lily. I just try very hard not to become the kind of man who killed my mother." The confession settled between them like a stone in deep water. "I know," Lily said quietly. "I've known for a while. Nico isn't just security. Rosa isn't just a housekeeper. Hannah didn't take my case from the kindness of her heart. You hired her. This house isn't on any official records. And you—" She met his eyes. "You look at the world like someone calculating threats before they materialize. Does that frighten you?" "It should." She pulled her knees to her chest. "Maybe it would have before. But afraid of you? No. Afraid for you, maybe. Afraid that helping me puts you at risk." Vincent leaned forward. "Miss Amoun." Elbows on knees, gaze intense. "I've spent 15 years building walls, making sure nothing gets close enough to matter, because in my world, anything that matters becomes a target. Anything you care about becomes a weapon someone can use against you." He paused. "But when you collapsed outside my restaurant, when I saw those marks on your wrist, I couldn't walk away, and I won't. Even though it's dangerous? Especially because it's dangerous. If I let fear stop me from doing what's right, I'm no different from him." Lily's throat tightened. "What if staying with you puts you at risk? What if I'm the liability? What if you want to leave?" Vincent interrupted gently. "What if tomorrow you wake up and decide this is too much? The criminal connections, the court appearances, the fact that my past could swallow us both. Then you leave, Lily. I'll make sure you have everything you need. Safe apartment, financial security, protection until the restraining order expires and beyond. Clean slate. No guilt, no strings." She stared at him. "You'd really let me go, just like that?" "Just like that." His voice was firm. "Because the only way this works, any relationship between us, is if you choose it freely. Not because you're grateful or scared or feel obligated, but because you genuinely want it. This was the crossroads, the moment where Lily could step back into ordinary life, scarred but free, and build something that didn't involve bodyguards and courtrooms and men who operated in gray spaces. She thought about it, really considered it. Then she moved from the couch, kneeling in front of his chair, her hands resting on his knees, her eyes level with his. "I'm not blind, Vincent. I know you're dangerous. I know your world is complicated and dark and probably always will be. But you're also the one who caught me when I fell, who stood in that courtroom even though it exposed you to risk, who gave me nightmares about Eric but sent protection to make sure he'd never hurt me again, who offered me freedom even though," her voice caught, "even though offering that probably costs you something." His hand came up, gentle, cupping her face. "Lily, if you're darkness, you're the only darkness that ever gave me a way out." She leaned into his touch. "I'm choosing to stay, not because I'm afraid of being alone, not because I need you to survive, but because I think we're both trying to be better than the worst things that happened to us. And maybe we can do that together better than apart." Vincent's eyes darkened with wonder and relief, and fear tangled together. "Are you certain?" "I've never been more certain of anything." He kissed her then, slowly, carefully, like she was something precious. Nothing like Eric's kisses, which had felt like ownership. This felt like a question and an answer, like two people deciding that maybe love didn't have to hurt to be real. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. Lily rested her hand over Vincent's heart, feeling it pound beneath her palm, rapid, alive. "Real. I used to think love meant sacrifice," she whispered, "giving up pieces of yourself until there was nothing left. Eric taught me that version. But this," she pressed her palm more firmly against his chest, "this feels like addition instead of subtraction. Like I'm becoming more of myself, not less." Vincent covered her hand with his. "I spent 15 years believing that caring about someone made you vulnerable, weak, a target. I built an empire on keeping people at arm's length, on making sure nothing mattered enough to hurt me." His voice dropped lower. "But you walked into my life, collapsed into my arms, literally, and everything I thought I knew about strength and weakness got turned upside down." "How so?" "Because letting you in, choosing to care about what happens to you, opening myself up to the possibility that I could lose you." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "That's the bravest thing I've ever done. Scarier than any deal I've made, any territory I've defended, any enemy I've faced. You terrify me, Lily Parker, in the best possible way." She smiled through fresh tears. "You terrify me too, but I'm learning that being scared and being wrong are two different things." "Who taught you that?" "You did, every time you stood in a doorway instead of crossing a threshold without permission. Every time you offered me a choice instead of making demands. Every time you asked instead of assumed." She leaned up, kissing him again. "You taught me what respectful love looks like. Now I can't imagine accepting anything less." Vincent wrapped his arms around her, and they stayed there on the floor between couch and chair, holding each other like lifelines, learning the architecture of safety in each other's arms. They stayed wrapped in moonlight and possibility. Two people who'd walked through fire learning how to hold warmth without burning. Outside, the lake whispered against the shore, steady and sure. 3 weeks after the restraining order hearing, Vincent sat Lily down at the kitchen table with the morning sun streaming through windows. "There's something you need to know about Eric." His voice was measured, careful. "He's not just a man with anger issues. For the past 5 years, he's been running financial schemes, credit fraud, falsified income records, real estate manipulation schemes. He used your salary to cover debts you didn't know existed, gambled with money that wasn't his, lied to banks, investors, business partners." Lily's hands tightened around her coffee mug. "How do you know all this?" "I hired independent financial investigators, legitimate professionals, former federal auditors. Everything they found was obtained legally through public records, financial databases, and information Eric himself filed with various institutions." Vincent slid a folder across the table. Every email, every forged document, every fraudulent transaction. All of it was forwarded to the Federal Investigation Agency through proper legal channels by the investigators themselves, with full documentation of their sources. "So you didn't," Lily hesitated. "I didn't do anything illegal. I hired professionals who knew where to look and how to document what they found within the boundaries of the law. The rest was up to federal prosecutors to decide if they had a case." Vincent's expression was steady. "I could have handled this differently. Through street justice, that would have made things worse for you. Instead, I chose the legal system. It's slower, but it's the right way." Lily opened the folder with shaking hands. Pages of evidence, bank statements showing Eric siphoning her paychecks into failing investments, emails promising investors returns he couldn't deliver, contracts with signatures that forensic experts flagged as suspicious. "He's been doing this for years," Vincent said quietly. "You weren't a girlfriend to him, Lily. You were a stable income source that made his house of cards look legitimate. That's why he controlled your money. That's why he wouldn't let you leave. You were collateral for his schemes." The revelation hit like ice water. Every time Eric had told her she wasn't smart enough, wasn't good enough, he'd been projecting his own failures onto her. "How long until—" She couldn't finish the question. "It's already happening. Federal investigations move carefully, but they move." The arrest happened on a Tuesday. Lily was grading papers at the lake house when Rosa rushed in with her tablet. "Sweetheart, you need to see this." The news showed Eric being led from a downtown office building in handcuffs, his expensive suit suddenly looking cheap under harsh morning light. The headline scrolled, "Local man arrested in multi-year fraud scheme." Reporters detailed the charges: tax evasion, wire fraud, credit manipulation, real estate fraud. The dollar amounts were staggering. The number of victims, people Eric had destroyed financially, was worse. Vincent appeared in the doorway, watching Lily's face more than the screen. "How are you feeling?" Lily considered the question, really considered it. "I don't feel happy or vindicated. I just feel—" She searched for the word. "Relieved. Like I've been carrying weight I didn't know about, and it just lifted." The trial moved swiftly. Eric's lawyer tried negotiating, but the evidence was overwhelming. The sentencing hearing arrived on a cold November morning, exactly 2 months after Lily had collapsed outside Moretti's restaurant. Lily didn't attend. Hannah advised it wasn't necessary, and Vincent agreed. But they watched the coverage together in the living room. Vincent's hand solid around hers. The judge, a man in his 70s who looked like he'd seen every scheme imaginable, delivered the sentence without hesitation. 5 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole for 3 years. Mr. Collins, you have demonstrated consistent disregard for the law, for others' financial security, and for basic human decency. You manipulated, lied, and stole from people who trusted you, including Miss Parker, whose testimony regarding your controlling and abusive behavior reveals deeply concerning patterns. This court finds you are a danger to anyone in your orbit. You will serve your time. Actions have consequences, Mr. Collins. You're about to learn that truth. The gavel fell. Eric's face crumpled. The courtroom stirred with murmurs. Lily closed her eyes and exhaled a breath she'd been holding for 2 years. "It's over," she whispered. "It's over," Vincent confirmed. He pulled her close, arms creating a circle of warmth and security. "He can't come back. You're free." Lily pulled back slightly, looking at Vincent with something new in her eyes. "I need to tell you something I realized while watching that sentencing." "What's that?" "For months, I've been thinking of myself as someone you saved, the damsel in distress, the victim who needed rescuing." She shook her head slowly. "But I've got it wrong. Yes, you caught me when I fell. Yes, you provided safety and resources and protection. But the saving, that was something I did. I spoke up in that courtroom. I filed the restraining order. I chose to leave. I chose to fight back. You gave me the tools and the space to save myself." Vincent's expression softened with something that looked like pride mixed with relief. "I was wondering when you'd figure that out." "You knew?" "I hoped. There's a difference between helping someone up and carrying them. I never wanted to carry you, Lily. I just wanted to help you remember how to stand." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "The strength was always yours. You just needed to reclaim it." Lily felt something shift inside her, the final piece of a puzzle clicking into place. She wasn't a victim who'd been saved. She was a survivor who'd fought her way back to life, who'd had the courage to accept help when it was offered, who'd done the hard work of healing. "I want to go back to school tomorrow," she said. "I want to see Emma, make sure she and her mother are okay. And I want to start volunteering with the Domestic Violence Resource Center. Hannah mentioned they need people who've been through it, who can talk to women who are where I was." "You're ready for that?" "I think I need it, to turn what happened into something useful, something that helps others." She looked at him. "Is that okay? I know it might put me in the public eye more, might connect me to you in ways that could be complicated." Vincent stopped her with a gentle finger on her lips. "Lily, you don't need my permission to be who you're meant to be. If helping others heal helps you heal, then do it. I'll handle any complications that arise. That's what I do." That night, they stood on the porch overlooking the lake. Autumn air had turned sharp with approaching winter, but Lily didn't feel cold. She felt lighter than she had in years, like she'd been pushing a boulder uphill and someone had finally rolled it away. "You made sure he faced real consequences," she said quietly. "No," Vincent's voice was firm. "Eric did that to himself. I just made sure the truth came to light through proper channels. Justice doesn't always wear a badge, Lily. Sometimes it wears an accountant's calculator and a prosecutor's briefcase." She leaned into him, fitting against his side naturally. "Thank you for showing me there's more than one way to fight back. For teaching me that strength doesn't always look like violence." "You taught me something too," Vincent said. "What?" "That power is only worth having if you use it to protect what matters." He turned her to face him, hands framing her face, eyes steady. "You matter, Lily Parker, more than I thought anyone could." She kissed him then, slow and sure, tasting freedom and feeling like home. Behind them, the lake whispered its approval. 8 months later, Boston bloomed into autumn again. Leaves along the Charles River turned red and gold. The air smelled like wood smoke and new beginnings, and Lily Parker walked into a private restaurant in the North End, wearing a soft blue dress and the kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly who she was. She taught 3 days a week now at the elementary school. The other 2 days, she attended graduate courses in educational psychology. Her dream, helping children recognize harmful situations before they became adults trapped in them, was no longer just a dream. It was a path, clear and purposeful, built from everything she'd survived and overcome. Vincent walked beside her, hand warm at the small of her back. Perfectly tailored suit, expression almost nervous. "They're going to love you," he said for the 3rd time since parking. "You keep saying that like you're trying to convince yourself." Lily smiled up at him. "It's sweet that a man who coordinates territories gets nervous about family dinner." "You're not just anyone, you're—" He paused. "You're the woman I love. There's a difference." Her heart performed a slow, warm flip. The private dining room was already full of voices. English punctuated with laughter, the scent of garlic and wine and fresh bread. Lily stepped inside and was immediately wrapped in warmth. Rosa appeared first, pulling her into a hug that smelled like vanilla and home. "Finally! I told him weeks ago he was being ridiculous, keeping you away like some secret." Nico stood near the corner, actually smiling, a beer in hand, and his bodyguard posture completely relaxed. "Miss Parker, good to see you somewhere that doesn't involve legal proceedings." A man who looked like Vincent's older, grayer version, Vincent Greco she'd learned, raised his glass. "So you're the one who made our boy smile again. About time someone managed that." Greco's wife laughed, swatting his arm. Their teenage daughters immediately pulled Lily into a passionate debate about which Red Sox player was overrated, arguing with the kind of intensity that made Lily feel less like an outsider and more like family. No one looked at her as the teacher Vincent saved, or that abuse victim. They looked at her as Lily, someone who mattered on her own terms, who had her own dreams, her own strength. Stories flowed throughout dinner. Rosa told embarrassing tales about Vincent as a teenager. Greco's daughters argued about baseball with the passion of lifelong fans. Someone mentioned a cousin's wedding. Someone else complained about Boston traffic. It was beautifully, magnificently normal. Halfway through dessert, Vincent stood and tapped his wine glass lightly. The room quieted, all eyes turning to him. He looked uncomfortable with the attention, this man who commanded respect with a word, suddenly awkward in front of people he loved. "I'll keep this brief, because Rosa will throw something at me if I get sentimental." Scattered laughter. "I just want to thank you for welcoming someone new to this table. Someone who's made my life, all of our lives," he gestured vaguely, "a lot brighter, so To Lily! To Lily! The room echoed warmly. She ducked her head, blushing, but Vincent's eyes held hers across the table with a look that said, "This is real, we're real, you belong here." After dinner, they walked along the waterfront, city lights reflecting off the harbor like scattered stars. Vincent was quiet, hands in pockets, expression thoughtful. "What are you thinking?" Lily asked. He stopped walking, turning to face her fully. Autumn wind caught his hair, made him look younger, less like someone running an organization and more like a man trying to find the right words for something important. "When you collapsed outside my restaurant 8 months ago, I thought I was just handling a situation, solving a problem in my territory." His voice was soft, honest. "I didn't expect you to become the most inspirational part of my life. The thing that made me question every wall I'd built and every rule I thought kept me safe." Lily's breath caught. Vincent reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. He didn't kneel, that wasn't his style, and she wouldn't have wanted it. Instead, he opened the box to reveal a simple ring. Silver band, small diamond, nothing flashy. A ring that whispered, "I see you," instead of shouting, "Look at me." "I don't know if my world will ever be completely safe. I don't know if I'll ever be the kind of man who doesn't carry shadows." His voice roughened. "But if there's anyone I want to walk through this life with, anyone I want to choose every single day, even on the hard days, it's you." Tears pricked Lily's eyes. "Vincent, when you fell into my arms that night, I thought I was catching you. But the truth is, Lily Parker, you caught me too. You reminded me that power is only worth having if you use it for good. That strength looks like standing in a courtroom telling the truth even when your voice shakes. That love, real, lasting romance, isn't about control or fear or ownership." He took a breath. "It's about this, two people choosing each other, scars and all." He paused, meeting her eyes directly. "People might call what I do mafia. They might say men like me don't deserve happy endings. But you taught me something motivational, that we're not defined by where we came from or what we've done. We're defined by who we choose to become and who we choose to love." Lily felt tears streaming down her face now. "When I fell outside your restaurant, I thought it was rock bottom. It turned out to be the doorway to a different life, a better life, a life where I'm not someone's victim or property, but just Lily, the woman who teaches second graders and studies psychology and fell in love with a man who uses his power to make things right instead of just profitable." She held out her hand. "Yes, I'll marry you. I choose you. I choose us." Vincent slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, like it had been waiting there all along. They kissed as harbor wind whispered around them, as city lights painted the water gold, as the autumn night wrapped them in its arms and whispered welcome home. Lily had learned so many things in the past 8 months. That healing wasn't linear, that strength came in countless forms. That love, real love, felt like being seen completely and chosen anyway. That justice mattered, even when it arrived slowly. That the most motivational thing a person could do was decide they deserved better and then build that better life, one brave choice at a time. But mostly, she'd learned this, that sometimes falling into the right person's arms could be the beginning of learning to stand on your own 2 feet. Vincent pulled back just enough to rest his forehead against hers, his smile rare and genuine and entirely hers. "Let's go home," he murmured. "Which one?" Lily teased gently. "The penthouse or the lake house?" "Both. All of them. Anywhere you are." His voice went soft. "That's where home is now." They walked back toward the car hand in hand, two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way, through rain and bruises and the kind of courage that only comes from refusing to stay down. Behind them, the harbor whispered its ancient song of tides turning, of darkness giving way to light, of endings that were really just new beginnings in disguise. And somewhere in the city, in a restaurant with warm light spilling onto rain-soaked cobblestones, life continued, a steady rhythm of people finding their way home, one careful step at a time, the kind of inspirational story that reminds us, you are never too broken to rebuild, you are never too lost to find your way. And sometimes, the person who catches you when you fall becomes the person who helps you learn to fly. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that it's never too late to choose yourself, to demand respect, to build a life on your own terms, leave a comment below. What part of Lily and Vincent's story resonated most with you? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about love that heals, justice that matters, and second chances that change everything. Thank you for spending this hour with us. Your story, like Lily's, matters, and you deserve a love that protects without controlling, supports without diminishing, and chooses you every single day.